want to go first right with the offensive line because it's kind of been a big talking point really all week. Where Matt Rhule has somewhat tried to sprinkle some magic fairy dust that, hey, I'm going to make this offensive line better. We know what the metrics say the last 2 years. In fact, I had this in the 3-2-1 today. The last 2 years, Nebraska's offensive line has had the lowest pass protection grade on Pro Football Focus of all Power 5 teams.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know that I'd characterize it as Matt Rhule trying to sprinkle
belief, confidence.
He's doing that, but he has said he doesn't think it was that bad. So I don't know. I mean, the ratings, I don't know what he's seeing, what other people aren't seeing, but he has been consistent in saying that group it's a good group, that wasn't the problem. So it's interesting. It is interesting. And he really likes Bryce Benhart, he's made that clear. He made that clear today. In his session with reporters, said he's an NFL player. He said he's an NFL player, and I think he believes he has other.
Newelly.
I think he believes he has others on that line. Ben Scott, perhaps. Nordin Newelly, perhaps, and he said it publicly about Benhart. So, listen, if you think you got 3 guys up front that can play in the NFL, you should be pretty good up front.
When we think if Teddy Prohaska gets back, we know what he can do. Mike, where does Turner Corcoran factor? And that seems to be kind of one that we don't have a great read on through 9 spring practices. You know, what's their kind of outlook for him as whether it's guard or tackle? Because we know what he came in ranked as, but he hasn't, one of the better moments of his career was that opening game at Rutgers when he started as a true freshman when Matt Sichterman declared early for the draft. And, we just haven't seen him progress.
Yeah. I mean, we thought he'd be a tackle, or I thought he'd be a tackle anyway. And that if he would, if the season were to start tomorrow, I'm sure he'd be a guard, right? Your Teddy would probably be at a tackle, and Benhart would be at a tackle, and Corcoran would factor in at guard, or guess he can play center too. He's versatile. That should help. But I think Corcoran's got a very good chance to start. I just think it'll be a guard.
And Ethan Piper, and we forget about Henry Lutovsky. They return a lot on this offensive line.
Kind of, Sean. They're better off in the interior than they are the tackle spot. In that, okay, let's put it this way, Sean. Starting tackles, if they're Prohaska and Benhart, who's your third? I think you're moving Corcoran to tackle. If you need another one, right? Then I would ask you, who's after that?
Because Nuri's played some tackle.
Okay, then who's after that? I looked the other day. You can't come up with an answer. I mean, it's a little dicey in a sense, but in another sense, you could say, well, they can just move Corcoran or Nordin there. So.
Yeah, Jacob Hood. I mean, great frame, but just not ready. You're looking at him right here on this shot, the transfer. There's Ben Scott, the other addition.
Ben Scott can play tackle, by the way.
He played right tackle.
Yeah, so they have some guys within their kind of first 6 or first 5 even that can play tackle. Look how lean Benhart is. And
he's an old. I mean, think about Benhart at 6'9" in high school. He had to stay at 285 pounds to wrestle.
He looks like he's under 300.
And, he won state. So those wrestlers, you remember Tanner Farmer, they could really shred up pretty quickly.
They know how to lose weight for sure.
Yeah. Need to be a wrestler.
Well, yeah. That's a whole nother story. But Rhule, like the headline says, and Sean, he's been doing this since December. He expresses confidence in that group, and when he does it, a lot of people are like, "Wait a second, what's going on?" But I think some of it is like you alluded to. There's a purpose. He said it today. Those guys, all they hear is, "Oh, the O-line's terrible. The O-line's terrible," and then if you hear that too often, maybe it becomes reality if you hear it too often. So he wants them to hear something else. Now, does he really believe it? I'd say to a certain extent he must.
Just the value, though, of some of these transfers and additions on the O-line. I mean, Ben Scott, that's a huge addition. If they don't have Ben Scott right now, where is this line?
Well, hold on.
Walter Rouse.
No, wait a second. What? I mean, they have guys in the interior. I disagree with you a little bit on that, Sean.
I disagree back because
well,
I think
on.
the loss of Cam Jurgens at center. I mean, they needed a better guy. They didn't have that last year.
Well, I don't know if they got a better guy. First of all,
Ben Scott's a proven starter.
What, you think he's a second rounder right now?
Well, I don't think he's Jurgens level, but I think he's better than what they had last year.
Okay,
they needed Ben Scott for the 2022 season as much as they need him for the 2023
They have
season.
The reason I bit back a little bit is there's interior guys. I mean, they have them. They need
guys that have played football.
They need a tackle.
And they had Walter Rouse. And that puts in perspective, like Shannon Terry, I was listening to him on a podcast this week, the value of a Rouse or even a Brandon Baker in the NIL and in the recruiting world, they're like gold. I mean, those guys don't come around.
I know. No, and listen, getting Ben Scott's gigantic. It is. I just think you're better off right now at Nebraska in the interior. It would have been better to go get a tackle, but it's hard.
Well, and Newelly, just not having him last year, what would he have done last
year? I think Newelly's pretty good. He's pretty good.
Think about this. Like, he could have come back to Norris for a senior year, or he could have played one more year of high school football, declared early because he's an international student, won a starting job
at Colorado
as
State.
A true freshman at Colorado State. Yeah. Only played 1 year of truly organized American football at that point.
Yeah, he's a real deal. He'll be a starter here.